Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, no matter where you happen to be located. This is Chris Torrence over at Optum for another episode of Semi Related, a podcast where we try to talk about industry topics, but also make it a little more personal. And as always, we're always making this a very spontaneous kind of discussion, and we like to see where those conversations go. We've had a lot of guests on in the past on this show, but I can't say this is probably a first that we have our first former NFLer on who happens to be a former Chicago Bear, and anybody knows me knows I'm in Chicago, and I've been a long, diehard Bears fan as much as I can be for many years. So, yeah, with that, we got Desmond Clark on the line. So, Des, man, thanks for joining us, man. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
And you're sitting down in what, Florida today? I never know where you're at.
Yeah, man. I'm 98% of the time I'm sitting right here in Florida. We just moved into another home here in Winter Garden, but here in the Orlando area.
Very cool, man. I'm in Orlando quite a bit, so yeah, man. I hope to make it down and see you instead of having to go to the Gaylord over there at the Palms for all these big conferences. But
yeah,
right in your backyard, man.
Come down, let me know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool. Well, like I said, this is a very unique opportunity to have you come on. I guess everybody that you've spoken with on a podcast or otherwise, with your background, obviously, kind of showing your former life.
Yeah.
Tell us a little about, man. Yeah,
that's the real young Des. Like
that's the OG.
Yeah, that's Wake Forest days right there. So, man, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an ACC guy, I'm more Virginia, but Wake is certainly in the pack. And now that I'm in Chicago, it's like Midwest or nothing, right? So it's interesting to see the conferences. I was talking to somebody earlier. It's like you played in when there was still a lot of conferences in NCAA, and now I feel like are we going to just end up with two or three? Maybe it's going that direction.
We are going to end up with two. I really feel like that. The ACC is going to go away also.
You think?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
You're going to have the Big Ten, and you're going to have the SEC.
Wow, is that a big bold prediction, or just you're in the know?
No, but that's where it's going because if the ACC loses Florida State and Clemson,
that's a hit.
And both of those schools already applied to leave and go to the SEC.
How do you? I mean, I know this is a little off topic, but that's the point of the show. You're going to have more perspective on these things than probably anybody will ever have on. So, are you a fan of this consolidation of conferences, or do you think it kind of? I mean, think about back in your playing days at Wake. I mean, do you think it's going to add to the game? Do you think it's more about the money and the fans? I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. Of course, we got NIL now. We can talk about that, right?
It has everything to do with the money, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have the big schools that have all the money that's going to be in two different conferences, and everybody else is going to be everybody else. Because like a Wake Forest, you can't compete with an Alabama. You can't with NIL like
the portal.
Yeah, like you just can't. And you already have a system where, hey, I just keep using Alabama. They're gonna always be around the top. Your Georgias and people like that. Your Michigans and Ohio States of the world.
That's right.
You know, and then your smaller schools within those conferences that can't compete. You know, they're going to go, and they're going to be the second tier, right? I think eventually it's going to be two conferences, and that's going to be like NCAA one,
yeah,
and then it's going to be everybody else, right?
Right.
You even see that down here in Florida in high school now.
I was going to say it's starting to get younger and younger how they're working this.
Because now in Florida with high school you have the Metro state championships, and then you have the rural state championships.
Just based on the size? Yeah, I mean, and it's like, how do you put in a rural school to play up against the powerhouses in those, 4A, 3A, 4, 5A schools that are just,
But no, it just has to do with the location.
Just location.
But Lakeland High School, my rival high school, they won state championships all the time against the Miamis of the world.
Right.
Against the Jacksonvilles of the world. But
right.
Now they're just going to dominate because they're in the rural division.
Right.
They don't have to play against those kind of big schools. And so I don't.
Is that a good thing, though? Because at some point, right, if you're going to make it to the top like you did, you got to be exposed to the highest level of the game, right? Like the players, right?
I don't like it because it's just saying that you can't compete with these people,
Right.
and we all know that's not on a high school level. That's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
Now, when you get to college, when money is involved in high school now with NIL.
It's
Um,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah, but then when you get to college, and then when you're talking about billions and billions, now that makes more sense because a small school that could generate 100 million going up against a bigger school that could generate 2 billion. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not going to be a level playing field.
Well, you mentioned kind of a somewhat related note, Des. You went to Wake.
Mm-hmm.
You also joined the very, very small percentage of NCAA players in football and other sports that make it to that highest level. Do
Mm-hmm.
you think back in your playing days, we didn't have the portal, we didn't have NIL? Do
Mm-hmm.
you think that's helped or hurt the collegiate sports as a whole? And do you, if you had it, I mean, again, I look at it as a fan, right? Coach Saban, right? A big reason I think he left Bama is because this whole portal thing. Now it's like, I see it from a fan. It's like, well, it's like it's like the college hoops, right? Where a lot of one and dones, hard to really follow a team for consecutively because you've got players coming in and out of the portal. You don't know what the roster may look like next season. But I also so from a fan, I think it kind of diminishes the fan experience. But if I'm a player,
There you go.
man, of course, I want to cash in on all what everybody's making money off my jersey. I mean, we know how much money we can say we want, right? But athletic programs, they are the revenue generator for most of these schools. We know that. So, what
Yeah,
are your
don't
thoughts
don't
on?
say that too loud. Then you start getting
Oh,
people coming out of the woodworks. Oh, no, we're not
come
gonna
on,
get
man.
into that. But
Yeah,
we know
right,
what's
right.
real.
Well, do you wish in your days that they had implemented portal and NIL earlier? Or are you kind of glad you still were hanging on during like the older years where that wasn't even in the equation?
You know what? I don't even think about it, man.
Don't you
Because
think about it? Been a
what
while.
good, what good is that gonna do for me, right? To think about, man, if in my day, if they would
Right,
have done
right,
this,
right.
like that's not gonna do anything for me for moving this freight.
Well, you got
So
you got kids though, right? So do you think that now that you're a father, do you think having if you're and again I don't know your whole family situation, but if say you
Mhm.
have boys that are like going that route, I guess you probably be like for a lot of reasons like, hey, yeah, if you can make some money off that, great.
right.
So I guess that's where the dynamic changes a little bit.
So to go back to answer your original question, do I think it's good or bad for
Yeah,
the game? It depends on what perspective you're
that's
looking at
right.
it from, and you gave both perspectives, right? Um, if I'm a kid that's going into college, or that kid's family that's going into college, I'm looking at it and I'm saying this is great because
Yeah,
yeah, you guys are gonna make money off of my kid. My kid should be compensated for that. That's
yeah,
just kind of the way that it should be, right? If when I was in high school and my jersey at high school when I was in college and my jersey was the best selling jersey at the college, well, I should have been compensated for that. And I know
yeah.
the argument from the other side is, well, we're giving you a free education. Well, all right, so if we're doing that, let's start to okay, when let's look at the rights of the TV rights and let's disperse that evenly across all of the players that's on the team. So they have a certain dollar amount that everybody
Right.
is worth, right? And then let's start looking at all of the other things. Well, we probably could stop right there and say, okay, so I'm worth based off the TV contract and the money that this school gets for this.
Sure.
I'm probably already worth more than my college education.
A full
Um,
ride. Yeah, yeah.
right. So, and we just talk about that year. So I know it was like $25,000 to go to Wake Forest way back then.
Hmm.
It's like 85,000 now. So 85 players times 25,000. Let's just say 100 players. So now we're talking about 2.5 million. Did we make 2.5 million off of? Did we get 2.5 million from the contract that went to the school just for us
Right.
showing up? Okay, so us as a product, we've already paid off our education,
That's right.
right?
And I think that
Now
needs
what?
to be talked about more.
Yeah, now everything else. Let's talk about ticket sales, jersey sales, this and
Right.
that and the other. How much is that worth, and how much should go to the individuals? And so I don't buy that argument. And when I was at Wake Forest, I had some people that were saying, "Oh, well, what about the free education?" Well, it's not necessarily free because we pay for it with our bodies
Yeah.
and the effort that we go out on the field with, the ticket sales and everything that's generated from that. So it's not free. That's a misnomer.
Right.
It's not free, right? So now if I'm looking at it from that side of it, of the fan side of it, like I am today, is like I don't necessarily like it
Right.
because for one, I know what I gained from it, from being an athlete and not being able to bounce from place to place to place. I think it makes it for the athletes. They can be a little less mentally tough now. If they don't like it, they can just go and like, come on, man. That's not. Maybe that is the way the world is going, but that's not the world that I grew up in. Where
Right.
if things were not going your way, you didn't have to try to compete.
Right. Well
Right.
said.
And I get it. Back then, you could transfer, but there
Right.
were consequences to that. Maybe you had to sit out a year. I didn't necessarily like that, but I still do think that, hey, if you went to a school and for whatever reason, this is not what I thought it was going to be. It's not working out for me here. It's a bad culture fit. You should have an opportunity to go somewhere else, but you
That's
shouldn't
right.
just be able to bounce from place to place to place to place just because I'm not getting paid enough money or those people are going to pay me the most money. There's no commitment there.
Yeah. I think again, it's a subjective to conversation, definitely one that raises a lot of emotions for people that are sports fans and players, right? I look at Wake, right? If you went pro, and I think now, when people are like, hey, for even the drafts, like these 5-star recruits that will go to Georgia or Bama, you might ride the bench though. You might be the top of your recruiting class, but you're on an equal playing field with all throughout the nation, the best of the best. So I think a lot of people I've talked to, even collegiate players that have used the portal, I know, they'll say I did it because I wasn't getting any reps, even if I'm on the best program with all the airtime, all that goes into those massive programs. But I'm looking after me at the end of the day. So you wonder back at Wake, you made it, but was it because at the Wake program you stood out? And if you had transferred to a Clemson or a Georgia or a Bama, would that maybe have changed the trajectory of your going pro? Like, I mean, again, that's all retrospect, but
Right.
and I think talent is ultimately talent, but that dynamic does change. So I'm kind of like, again, in these conversations, I'm always trying to like, that's a good point, right? So it's not an
So
easy answer.
the portal could allow you to make moves that's lateral,
Yeah,
make moves that's vertical,
right.
and you can also move down. Like you can go
That's
from
true.
a high profile program and go to a lower profile program, or come from a lower profile program and go to a higher profile program.
That's right.
So if I'm looking at myself back in those days, it probably would have been, hey, going from a lower profile to a higher profile because I put up numbers, and
Yes.
other people would have wanted that. For instance, our quarterback that went from Wake Forest to Notre Dame, like we developed him into the quarterback that he became, but he wasn't getting the exposure, and he wasn't in a pro style system that was going to
Right.
showcase all of his talents. So he went to Notre Dame and
Right.
became a more high profile person and was able to operate and showcase his talent in a pro style like offense that boosted his stock.
Right.
So you got all of those things, and again, it matters from what perspective are you looking at it.
That's
Um,
life, right? That's
yeah,
life.
yeah,
Perspective is everything.
like
Yeah.
this right here. If I turn this right here, you're seeing the handle. I can't see the handle, right? So if you turn like this, both of us see the handle. Now it's all about
Right.
perspective. Yeah,
I like how you said that, man. So let's take it back. Okay, wrap it up. High school in Lakeland area. Go to Wake. End up doing obviously very well athletically. Play for the Bears. Have an NFL career, right? But in all standard, right? NFL not for long. You wrote
right.
it out for quite a while, right? I think I see a trend now. If you don't cut it within the first few years, I mean, I think just the way the pipeline of these new recruits coming in, it's like that might be the end of it. So you at some point knew, I think, what, 2011 is that? When did you get out completely?
Yeah, my last preseason, my last game in the preseason was 2011.
2011. How
Hmm.
was that day, man? A
I
lot of
got hurt.
emotions.
I got hurt on
I
the
know it was
field,
injured, but still in your
but
mind, that's what you've known.
I didn't know that was the end. I had a
Yeah,
really good camp, and I thought that I was going to be on the team. I had an injury that was going to keep me out 3-4 weeks,
yeah,
so at the most. So I thought I was good. But
yeah.
then when you get that person that we call the grim reaper come to you and say, hey, grab your playbook, coach want to see you. I mean,
Yeah.
go see coach. You know that
You know what's
it's,
up. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that's all. It happened to me twice. It happened to me once in Denver. It happened to me
Yep.
once in Chicago. And the feeling, that's not a good feeling at all. But after you kind of look back and look at, I mean, 12 years in the NFL,
That's unheard of.
that's for a 6th round draft pick. That
Right.
that on on my during the combine scoring an F. I literally scored an F in the combine. And going from playing receiver to being drafted as a tight end on a
Yep.
two-time world champion Denver Broncos where they had 3 established tight ends. You look back on that and say, man, you did damn
You
good.
defied the odds.
Yeah,
Big
yeah,
time. Well, after that, so realizing, I guess, after Denver and then Chicago, right? You're kind of like, hey, all right, the Grim Reaper came. You got to make it. Don't want to give it another shot, and your body's been beat up, right, for a long time. I think a lot of people don't realize how much body head trauma. It's all starting to come out now, but you got to be sitting there going, well, I'm not an old man. What am I going to do with the rest of my, I got a lot of good years left. Maybe not on the gridiron, but I got, Dez has more to offer than
right.
just what I did on the field. How did you come to this realization? Maybe you went through, and maybe there's more to the story, but I know where you are now at Bear Down.
Mhm.
Was that already in the back of your mind, or did you say, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to try a few different things, see what sticks, and then eventually we know where you are? How did it, give me the years following the NFL to where you got to now? What was that
Well,
period of time?
well, if I'm being totally honest, it was, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do. I wasn't preparing myself when I was in the NFL for my post NFL career. Right. I
Yeah.
think we're getting to a time now where athletes are just progressively getting smarter. There's more
Yes.
opportunity with social media and building brands and things like that. And now you can do that while you're in your career. Um, but no, I didn't have a clue what I was going to do once I got done. But I'll tell you this, when I was like 29, 30, I said to myself, because of how some of the interactions went with different people, that I was going to do something more significant financially than I
Yes.
did in the NFL. I made $15 million total in my 12
Mm-hmm.
years in the NFL. So I'm not. I said it from day one when I started Bear Down Logistics. I'm gonna build $100 million company. And you might say, "Oh, that's just a nice round number, right? That's a good, solid number to shoot for." But it's a lot of meaning behind why I say I am going to build $100 million company. So, as
Right.
you know, in the logistics industry, your average gross profit margin, is around about 15%, give or take. Depending on what you're doing. It's because of the feeling that I had with certain interactions that I had with certain people, where it made me feel like they only seen me or valued me as a football player, as if
Yeah.
I have more to me than just being able to run on the field. That's when I develop in my mind that, no, I'm not even trying to prove it to them, right?
Right.
Maybe they'll see it, but I want to show myself that. And I know I don't have to show it. I just gotta give myself just the materialization of that, of
Right.
validation, right?
Yes.
That Yeah, I'm way much more than just a football player. I'm way much more than just an athlete. But it took me some time of trying to figure out what it is that I want to do, how I want to do it. I thought it was going to be in the financial
Yeah. A lot
realm,
of so many different things you could have done, right?
but it really came down to everything that I was doing before. It was somebody else's.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was okay. You could come and do real estate. It's under somebody else's flag. You can come do financial advising. It's under somebody else's flag. You can come and do insurance. It's under
Yeah.
somebody else's flag. I always had this burning desire to create what I was going to create and have it be my own. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's why when I got introduced to this industry and to this freight management business, and I was able to look at it and peek up under the hood, and I was like, oh damn, like I think this is something that I can do, that I can like, that I could get into, that I can wake up every day, even with all of the BS and all the stuff that goes into it, and some of the heartache and pain of what happened again.
Right.
Still be motivated to get up and do this. And now I've even evolved even more to the point where my whole thing in this industry is helping my broker associates, my broker agents be
Yeah.
successful. And now if I can help each of my broker agents be successful, and now that I have government helping my government team be successful with what they're doing, that only makes me successful, but that's secondary to making them successful.
Yes, sir. I like what you said. I mean, a lot resonates with what you said. I mean, that whole as long as you're working for the man, you'll never be the man. So I like that entrepreneurial hustle. And
Hmm.
anybody that makes it to the highest level of athletics surely has a drive and a willpower and a commitment to do whatever they put their mind to, right? So I think that's you check that box right away. I
And
do think
so,
it's in.
so
Go
Chris, let
ahead.
me let me stop right, because people say that, but I want people to actually get that. I don't want them to know it. I want them to understand it. So I often, just like you say, hey, if I can go to the NFL and do what I did there, I could do anything. Let me just paint the picture for you. I played tight end in the NFL. I go across the middle. I have linebackers. I have safeties. I have people that when that ball is coming, they're trying to literally come and knock your head. They're trying to bring so much pain to you where you don't where they break your will, and they don't
Yes.
want you to get up. And like, I'm not this is not hyperbole. This is
Right.
real talk, because that's the way the game is played, right? But from my side of things, I have to be so focused. I have to avoid, have no regard for danger, and focus on catching a pass when I know there's five men bearing down on me, and they're literally trying to hurt me, and be able
Yeah.
to focus that much and be able to have the mindset to go out and do that.
Yeah.
When you think about that, making a freaking phone call and getting told no, what is that?
I'm with you, man. I was I'm a military veteran, did a lot of tours in Iraq and stuff. So again, different
Yeah,
scenario. But when people ask like, how do you tend to work under pressure? So you had people trying to take your head off. I think I did too, with a different,
yeah,
less of a helmet, more of some different
different type of
form.
pressure.
I
Yeah.
literally want to take my head off, but yeah, it does. It taught me a lot about myself and my ability to handle stress and not sweat the small stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when you work in the business world, as you do now, freights included, it amazes me how many people will lose it because that load's late. And I worked at shippers, and I said, guys, when I was at the shipper, I said, in the pork business, so bacon and ham. I said, so let me get this right. That load didn't make it on time. So when people go down to the grocery store, or the Piggly Wiggly, the Publix, the Walmarts, instead of having 38 different types of bacon to choose from, they only have 37 to choose from today. But they would blow it, man. They'd be like, that's just it. Just they would lose it. It always set back. How are you so calm in this? But I think you just answered the question, because
Exactly.
you were taking that route about five guys, the Ronnie Lott types, right? They're just like, I'm going to level you, man.
Right.
So it just puts it's again, it goes back to, like you said, it's perspective. So I like how I like how you phrase that up, and I also like, Des, how you're right, man. There's a blessing and a curse to being an athlete, especially one that attained the highest level. People are always going to associate Des Clark with the Bears or at the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time you get a meeting, you're going, I don't want you to see just that. And you do. So the upside is you have the luxury of having that narrative to get people to go, maybe in your mind, you're like, well, as long as they're taking my call, I don't care why they're taking my call.
Absolutely.
Right? That's the upside. But
Mm-hmm.
you also have this, you're on a mission to go, that's part of who I am, but that doesn't define who I am and what my future is. How do you navigate that in your own mind? Do you just accept that, hey, I'm going to work this to my advantage, as I think you probably do, and I would. Who wouldn't?
Right.
But it also maybe limits it to like, if I'm not getting an autograph or I'm not, then it's like, how do you continue to show, hey, look at what I bring to the table in terms of what I'm doing today, not what I did back in the early 2000s.
Absolutely. So you accept it, right?
Yeah.
You got to start with, I don't fight against it.
Mm-hmm.
I accept it for what it is, but then I also look at it as, okay, how's it going to be a disadvantage or advantage? And if
Right.
it's an advantage, how do I capitalize on that advantage? If it's going to be a disadvantage, how do I turn that disadvantage into an advantage? So I'll tell you something that I was up in Chicago, not this Monday, but last Monday.
Okay.
So I work with this guy. He met some really good people out on at a golf tournament. It's like Desmond, the big Chicago Bear fans. They're real high up in Fiserv, FISERV.
Yep.
Big time credit card processing company.
Okay.
And he was like, man, they I think we should go up there for a game because they got a suite and this and that and the other. And I was like, September 22nd was the date for the game. And I was like, no, why would I wait until September 22nd for the game? And he was like, well, but then you can be with them at the suite, this and that and other. I was like, but that's only going to diminish who I am.
Right.
And he's like, what do you mean by that? I was like, so we can meet them anywhere. But if I meet them in that setting of a football game and we're trying to do business, think about how that's going to typecast me right away, because at a football game, which I would not blame them at all, what are they going to want to talk about the whole game?
Exactly.
So I was like, it'll be more advantageous for what we're trying to get accomplished to meet them outside of the sports arena and let them see me as this individual businessman.
Yes.
And then if we want to go to the game later on, that's fine. But let's not just wait to the game. So last week, they were having dinner and they invited me up. Went up there.
All right.
Man, and it was a great meeting. Did we talk about sports? Absolutely. Did they see me just as somebody who played football? Absolutely not. Matter of fact, the next day I was speaking at one of the companies that they had at the guy that owned the company that they had at the table with them. And that wouldn't have happened, I don't think, if we would have met in a stadium at a suite and it was a football game going on. So
I love how you say that. I mean, again, it's double-edged sword, right?
It's advantages and disadvantages to it. I don't fight against it. You want to talk football? Let's talk football. But I do understand it, and I understand the disadvantages of it too. And I try to find ways to turn that into an advantage.
Yeah, and like I said, I think maybe go back up to Chicago for that game in September when they signed that contract. Now we can talk whatever you want.
I'll go to the game now because they met me like outside of that situation.
Yes.
Right. And if that was the only situation that I could meet somebody, of course I'm going to go.
Right.
And meet them in that situation because I'm not going to turn down the opportunity. But if we can set it up in another way that's strategically that they're going to see me in the mold and the light that I need to see them, that they need to see me in, then I'm going to try to make that happen because it's going to be more advantageous for me.
I love it. I love it. I love that. I love how you've been able to kind of work around the pros and cons of who you are and your identity.
Yeah.
And I commend you for not I mean, you could just as easily just say, well, if it's all the same to you and you want to talk, I don't care. Just like give me the business. But I think you seem to have, I want people to look at me and when I look back in history down the road on who Des is, I mean, there may be a percentage of people, if you build this $100 million company, they're going to associate you with Bear Down Logistics having an exit or being a big player. Oh yeah, and he did play football.
Chris,
You
not
know what I
when,
mean?
not if I do it, when I do it.
Man, all right, all right.
So I was actually, that was going to be one of my next points, is that my whole goal is to make playing football part of the overall story, not the story. Yeah,
Right,
and now the story needs to be where I'm at now.
right,
Yeah,
right.
and that's the whole goal. Is the story is Desmond Clark. Hey, he's a former football player, had a great career in the NFL, but he has this logistics company. He's a great speaker. Some of the companies that he helped transform leadership for, I mean,
Yes.
has been unbelievable. Do you know the list of companies that he's worked with? Do you know how much his logistics company is worth? Those type of things. So that's where the conversation will go over time, and it's evolving. And that's, like I say, I'm not fighting against the whole thing that I play football. Hell no. I
No,
I
it's a
bust
big
my
advantage in a lot of ways, right?
I bust my ass out there. I had a whole lot of blood, sweat, and tears that I
Yes.
want to be recognized, but I just want that to be part of the story, not the story.
Amen. I love it. Well, let's talk a little bit about the current chapter.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people know you and they know Bear Down, and you're starting to, I see you out there more on social, which, like you said, I'm old enough not to know when they didn't have that, right? Now everybody's out and you can become your own personal brand, which is powerful, right? How do you leverage that personal brand to bring that tie back into the business? So you are the face of Bear Down Logistics, but tell us more.
Mm-hmm.
I know you said you're doing. I know a little bit about it, but I think for the audience listening in, they want to. You mentioned you do a lot of the 1099 agents, which is a great model, right? Like you eat what you kill, right? Like that's the kind of the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you guys in a world of freight brokers? I worked at C.H. Robinson, Uber Freight, Arrivalages. I've got some history with the brokers and the 3PLs. Somewhat, then they've done pretty well. I hope you have that same success, and I know you will. It's just a matter of when.
Right.
But when you're up there and you're talking to, you got prospects, you got carriers, you got customer shippers, et cetera. What do as a former broker, I go into these big Fortune 100 clients. They'd be like, "Hey, we just had all the other guys in here, or some RFP or bid or something. How are you different? How do you answer that question in that room? How is Bear Down Logistics different than the other guys in the pack? How do you take on that question?
Yeah, and that's been a really difficult question to answer, and that's something that I'm not going to sit here and just feed you a bunch of hot air, right?
Yep.
That's something that I'm still trying to create
Yes.
for the identity and the brand of Bear Down Logistics, right? I know inside of the company, right, what makes us different, our drive. And so this is where I shoot all the video and stuff. My office
Mm-hmm.
is actually on the other side of this room, and if I had the camera out there, you'll see something behind my back, which you probably seen when we were talking the first time.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah. Yeah.
1%, right? The
Right.
Bear
Right.
Down Logistics 1%. That's our mindset. Not just to be a 1% company. We want to be 1% people. We want to
Yeah.
be the best of the best people. The best people will deliver the best results.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing that I coach when I'm out and I'm speaking to leadership teams and trying to develop, employee teams. We have to develop the people, and then the people will develop the company. So
Right.
that's where I start at, right? And it's I haven't figured out how to label that so people can see that. So that's my challenge of how do I market that part?
Yes.
Um, because everybody can say it, and that's the whole thing, right? Everybody can say it. So if I go out and say it, I'm not separating myself just by saying it.
That's right.
So that's the part that I'm still trying to figure out is how do I broadcast that in a way that is going to separate me, because I know how I kind of coach my guys. I
Hmm.
know the DNA that I bring to the table for this company. I know what we go through every day. I know some of the talks that I have with my team. And like, for instance, like every time we have a team meeting, it's not about numbers. My question to my team yesterday, and I have to be careful because I have to, when I ask the question to one person, everybody else will get a chance to think about it before they. So I'm always like, who do I want to ask this question to today, so everybody else don't have a chance to think about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I asked the question, why are you worthy? Oh, no, I said first, are you worthy, and why are you worthy of creating the life that you continuously talk about that you want to create? That was my question. Yes, that was the question for our meeting. And we went around the table, and one of my guys, he was like, "Well, if you think about the meaning of the word, and I got to look it up." I was like, "You don't have to look it up because you already looked it up." And then I started talking about what worthy means, and worthy means, man, where is it at? We just talked about this yesterday. Um, I'm losing the word that I'm thinking about. But it didn't really answer the question. So I had to look up the word for the definition of what worthy mean, right?
Yeah.
And then that took me to having spiritual credibility, spiritual credit, right? And then I
Right.
was like, which one of us don't have spiritual credit? Right? So now the spiritual credit, I'm forgetting the one that was in between that led to being worthy. We all
Right.
are worthy, man. And I was like, so there's no, we just got to believe that we're worthy, but belief is not going to get us there.
That's
Belief,
right.
belief is just the starting point. Now that we believe that we're worthy, anytime we believe in something, it's followed by actions.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's what I told them. If we really believe that we're worthy of this, we'll see it in our actions. We don't have to say it.
Yes.
We'll see
Right.
it. We'll see it
That's
when we
right.
do our Monday game reviews. Do you believe that you're worthy? Well, your actions are saying it or they're not saying it. So those are the type of meetings that we have where I'm challenging them as people to dig deeper than just the surface level. Like look in.
Hmm.
Are you that person? Are you that 1% that we talk about? Are you consistently making yourself better because you're being introspective and you're really digging out all of the things that's not serving you and putting in all the things that are going to serve you, that's going to serve the people that we
Yeah.
serve every day. And then as we serve the people better, it's going to get us to where we're going. But it all starts with you, the person, not the broker agent,
Right.
you, the person. Then that's going to make the better broker agent. Then that's going to make the
That's
better
right.
company. So that's the way that I manage. Let me say that again. That's the way I try to inspire my people. I manage the processes and systems, but when it comes to people, I try to motivate and inspire in that way.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, you manage processes, you lead people, right? And there's a
Right.
difference. Managers and leaders. I love Des how you said that you have, and I've been in part of many organizations, and yeah, you got to talk about sales and revenue and growth and numbers, but we already know that, right? Most people, if they're worth their weight at all, they know how they're doing.
Right.
It's fortunate that when you get these team meetings together, I've worked with some pretty crazy iron fist dictator types that are all just give me that number. What are you committing to? And Des, I like that you take the approach of like that's a byproduct of having the success will come and you'll know your numbers. I
Mm-hmm.
don't need to get everybody in the room and go, what'd you do this week? How many calls you make? How much freight you get? You're taking that time to mentor them and lead them and inspire them. And that to me is the missing link. And I'm speaking in all sales. When
Right.
you have CROs and sales leaders go in there and it's not they don't we're not people in sales especially, right? They're not journalists and accountants and historians. They're performers, and,
Yeah.
and whether you're on the field, it's a performance game,
I,
right?
man, I'm gonna steal that now, Chris. That's
No,
the
it
first
is.
time. That's the first time I heard it like that. But then it was like, yes, it
It's
is a
performance.
performance. Yes.
Yes. So I don't care. I tell people, these youngins I hire, I'm like, I don't care if you made 100 calls a day because you got 90 voicemails and, told to F off 3 times. And how much did that convert? Well, none of them. I got the other kid that did his research. He got to know Des. He found a way to connect. He didn't try to sell out the gate. He wanted to get to know, well, you went to Wake Forest. I was down at Wake. Some way in that made it feel personal. And that is how I think that's why companies need to, if you want to be a leader and a coach, right, it's performance, as we said. How do you inspire and coach them to be better performers at the craft and the art and the science of sales versus making it all about quantitative metrics?
Right.
That is the biggest waste of time I see in sales meetings, is regurgitating what's in a CRM or some software that's already tracking that. If I'm a senior person, just like you, but anybody that and you do motivational speaking, and it seems like that's a core theme, is, really looking inside yourself. And it's it's deep rooted, it's fundamental, it's philosophical. It's all the things that we all have inside us to make us become great performers. So I applaud you for that. And I think that I like how you answer the question when they go, how is Bear Down different? Going in that direction sometime is the differentiation, right? Mm-hmm. And we know at the end of the day that this is a business of what's your rates, cost, is your service card, your scorecards. We know all that. And I think companies try to tap dance around all that. And I think if you're going to be real about it, and authenticity is important in just human interaction and business too, I think he nailed it, man. I think that story is inspiring. And if I'm a shipper, I'm going, I'll take that answer every day over the BS that these last 9 brokers just came here and gave. So good on you.
Just being fully authentic, right?
Yeah.
I don't see where someone has this process or this system or this technology that no one else has, that no one else can replicate, that only you can do, that's setting anybody apart in this in the freight management industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's some people that do it better, right?
Sure.
But I haven't seen anything proprietary that only these people have that has not been duplicated.
Right. That's right. And I work in the tech space, right? And I have been for the last 7-10 years. I look at technology as a tool, but a tool goes in a toolbox, and that toolbox has to have more than just some one tool. It's the people, it's the process. Yes, technology is part of that, but the companies that make it to the highest level, I think, fundamentally understand that it's a combination of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And if your process is broken, I don't care about your people and your technology. If your culture is bad and your people are toxic, nothing else matters, right? So you got to be able to, as a business leader now, right? How do you mesh all those things, and knowing we got to try to be as good at all of them as we can, and leverage what helps us out as a company. Walk away from business that's not going to help us. And I know those are opportunities. Sometimes you go, I just don't want to work with these people. If this is how it's going to go in a sales meeting, a first call, what's going to happen when that first load's running late? I don't even know. So the ability to even say no sometimes is powerful.
And just going back to the whole quantitative,
Mm-hmm.
you got to have that, right?
Yeah.
But I think the difference of how I look at it, like I don't have W-2s, right?
Right.
I do have some carrier reps that's W-2s. I'm talking about, I don't have anybody on the sales side that's
right.
W-2. All of those guys are broker agents. Eat what they kill, 1099.
Yep.
The difference for me is that before you come on, before we say, okay, we shaking hands and now I'm your business partner, as I say, and now you're working with me under the umbrella of Bear Down Logistics, but you got your own business name that you collect your pay under. We have an understanding of what you're trying to accomplish.
That's right.
I'm not coming in telling you, this is what I need you to do. This is what I want you to accomplish. You're coming in and saying, here's what I want to accomplish. Here's the direction I want to go. So within our meetings that we have, our Monday game reviews, every Monday, we come in, they say, okay, this is what I'm going to commit to this week. Not what Desmond is telling you that you need to commit to, but based off of what we came into this agreement with that you wanted to accomplish, we together can work on the activities that you need to do, but you have to take ownership of it.
Yes.
Not me. And so every Monday you say, okay, here are my activities, and a lot of times those are repeatable things. But then other times, you have some one-offs every other week or whatever it is, and then the next Monday we come back and we review those things. If it's 5 things, so Corey, you're up. Here we go. So yeah, I said I was gonna get that done. Got that done. We finished that. I didn't quite get that one done. And if it's something that's important, I may ask the question, well, were the hurdles that got in your way from you completing that, right? And it's been times, because I am their business partner, that, okay, like 3-4 weeks in a row, you hadn't got this done. Like, dude, what is going on? Like, why are we not hitting
accountability? Yeah.
This is what you said you needed to do to get
Right.
here. So how do I help? And then, like I said, I got a couple W-2s. And this past week, I don't know why he said this, and it still boggles my mind, because I've been asking him to like fill certain gaps where we don't have relationships with carriers in certain cities. And he said, yeah, I've been hitting my numbers of because he has a number that he hits every week of how many carriers he onboards. I've been hitting my onboarding numbers, so I wasn't taking that side of it as serious. So I said to myself in that moment, okay, for the last 6 weeks or so, I've been asking him to fill in these gaps where we don't have relationships in different cities.
Yeah.
I've already explained to him why. So with something like that, Chris, now you have to become more authoritative, right? It's not the coaching anymore. And so I said, hey, I think I'm getting to the point where I'm begging you to do something.
Not good.
I'm not going to beg you to do anything. So here's the deal. And I was like, we could talk off camera because I don't want to, in front of everybody.
Yeah.
But what I am going to say is that if we don't get it done this week, there's going to be consequences to it. And we just
I'll leave it at that. Read between the lines, right? Yeah.
Right. You wasn't taking it serious? Well, why do you think I've been talking about this every week? You don't think that this is serious? So it's a balance between, and one of my principles of building great relationships, or one of the elements of building great relationships is being able to encourage and challenge. Be somebody's cheerleader, but sometimes people need a virtual or a real kick in the butt. In the most loving of ways, right? Not in the, hey, I'm being an asshole type of dude.
Right.
Dude, no. Somebody needs to get you going right now. And if I have to do that, I'm willing to do that. And I'm also willing to be your biggest cheerleader, right?
That's right.
When it's not about effort, like you're making all the calls, you're doing everything that you're supposed to do, Chris. It's just not lining up where you're getting results. You can't control the results. All you can do is control your effort. And so when your effort is there and you're not getting the results, you need a cheerleader. You don't need nobody down your throat.
And it's tough, man. In this market, when did Bear Down get established? Were you guys within the last, few years?
So if this is the roller coaster going up, we got established right here as it started.
On the apex.
Yeah, May of 2022, right at the height. Yeah.
Well, and I think that this will be, you look back, and I can assure you of 24 or 5 years in this industry, it's cyclical. Mm-hmm. A lot of folks in that came up during the COVID era, and you kind of, you wish you'd have cashed in during the height of the pandemic and the freight boom, venture capital giving money. Everybody was making money. Mm-hmm. But what I see now is a lot of kids, I say kids, younger folks, much younger than me anyway, that come in that role. And man, they said, "Why freight brokerage is the best thing I ever did." And now they give you that look of, "Hey, the phone's not ringing, and the numbers are starting to go down, and the vibe's getting different." It's like, welcome to the cyclical nature of freight volatility. Those that have been through the ups and downs never get never get so happy. And I always say those high fives one quarter go into like, what happened the very next quarter. Mm-hmm. And that's just the nature of the game. So I like that. I think that it's unfortunate you got in at that time on some level.
Not unfortunate.
But if you can survive and thrive in what I think many argue is the most historical downturn in the freight market in many, many years, some say ever, man, what does that tell you when I don't know when, but I know it's inevitable when an uptick and all of a sudden everybody will start feeling it. Nobody's got the crystal ball yet, but we know it's going to happen. And you've already proven that you can push through on the worst deflationary market period, and again, in a long time, and at a minimum. Now you're going to start to see the rewards because that's where it separates, as you know, right?
Right.
Everybody's happy when the market's easy and winning every day. Who are the grit and the survivalists that are saying, I'm gonna ride out the storm? And I think we're seeing it now. There's a lot that aren't making it. A lot of companies that are not making it right now.
And not just the little guys. We're talking about some
No,
big boys. Like,
absolutely.
going under. So
Yes.
I look at this as a blessing, right?
Yeah.
Man, and just go look at my Instagram there. I posted something like this, and I didn't mean for it to come out like this. I just thought about it. Like, some of the things that happen to you that we look at as, man, damn, like, why me, right? Why did I get in at this time? Turn out to
Right.
be some of the biggest blessings if you look at things the right way, right? So I'm looking at this when I got to October, November, and December of 2022, and I'm telling people, yeah, man, I just had I had 3 consecutive months of $100,000 of revenue,
Yeah.
and we're finally like profitable now. It
Mm-hmm.
was like, man, what are you doing? Because everybody else is like starting to fall off and market is
Yeah.
going down. I was like, I don't know, I'm just grinding, man. And I think it's the biggest blessing because I learned how to grind in these times where it's hard to grind. So now I was able to develop the habits of when it
That's
comes
right.
back. Now that's easy work. I'm
Right.
thinking what I was doing now was just the regular work, right? And come to find out, we were going through all the hard times and still going through
Right.
the hard times.
Right.
I didn't know. I'm just working. So I know if I could survive now, man, when it turns around, we should be able to thrive. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at it as the biggest blessing because my training ground was different. My training ground was harder than most other people's training ground. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be built differently. I'm gonna be built tougher as a company than some people that got in and at the beginning of 2020 when
Got spoiled. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and those same companies, man, went out and bought nice offices and flashing all this, like, ballers lifestyle. And it's like, now I'm going, I don't hear much from you on social media anymore. It's like, and you hear like the little headlines of who's shutting down and
Mm-hmm.
overspent. So I think you look back is not why is this happening to me? It's what can I learn from this and how can you're going to be better. You're bored. Listen, you play football, but with that mindset, the best freight brokers I've ever worked with have that same heart just in their core being that I'm going to get through whatever is thrown at me. And most of them have been through the good times and the bad times. And that's what I say. They never get too emotionally off balance.
Yeah, and I was going to
You
say
know?
that. I was thinking about that when you were talking. So one of the things, and it has nothing to do with freight broker, it has nothing to do with being a football player. It's just something that I learned as a man over time and more recently is to set myself at that mental, physical vibration that I want to set myself. Like I'm
Yes.
here, right? And here's where I'm gonna set myself. And if people know me, they know that I don't really get all that excited about a whole lot. Like I have a good time,
Yeah.
we'll
Just
do some
even
high.
keel, though. Yeah.
Yeah, but they also know that they never really ever find me down either.
Right.
And so setting yourself at that certain level that of stability,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Here's where I find myself to be the most stable. And you know
Right.
what? It's gonna fluctuate just a little bit, but if it goes way up or if it goes way down, it's not because of outer circumstances. It's
Right.
because I'll allow it because I'm not gonna allow outer circumstances to dictate the rhythm of which I move. And I
That's
think
right.
having that mindset, you know, it am I gonna face some challenges? Of course. But I think I'll be able to deal with the challenges better by having that mindset. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of adopted that sort of a theory, right?
Hmm.
Is man, what's gonna be the best way for me to navigate this world as a whole and navigate the the adversity that comes with it to turn it into advantages. And that's just how I think about it, and that's how I just set myself up in this world to go about, dealing with the good and the bad.
Yeah, that's like a metaphor for life, man. And I think as a leader, it's not easy because there's days for me anyway, there's days that, in the good stuff, I don't take compliments well usually because I just want to, and I know that sounds like I should do that more. I should be, thank you for that. But I always want to give, like they say, leaders eat last. You want to give all the wins to those people that are the backbone of the company. But at the same token, you got to take the hits when things don't go well. The buck stops with you.
Right.
So I think the ability, as you said, to kind of have a balance, because there's days I'm sure you want to rip a new one some of these folks that are like, but you can't do it.
My wife gets to hear all that. I'll be like,
too.
Jesus Christ. Like, she's like, right now. Like, sometimes I just don't get it. But, for me being a leader, it's like being a quarterback of a football team. If your emotions are going up and down, or being the head coach of a football team, if your emotions are all over the place all the time, like, that's not going to work, because the people that you lead, they're going to follow your lead.
Right. That creates culture.
Yeah.
And again, I've seen in this industry, and I'm sure it exists in many others, there's a toxicity to that where no one's sure what kind of mood the big man's in today, and that will determine how everybody else, the vibe in the office. So yeah, man, I think you were, like I said, you got into this business. I think you've got all the right criteria from just this, we've been chatting for about an hour, and man, like I said, I want to give you your time back. I know you're a busy man, Des. But I appreciate you kind of keeping it real. We can talk about freight and technology, and I enjoy those conversations. But part of this podcast is like I feel like I'm going to know a little bit more about you as a person, and that's kind of what I like to walk away from. And as you've been in this industry, in any industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
That the power of relationships, right, that is often in my career the differentiating factor. He's got it. He's got something coming up. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That's the book.
What's that chapter?
Power of relationships, man. It's true. It's true. I think, and I don't want to see a world where we don't have and I'm a technology guy, with AI, and all of a sudden people come to you, we're going to automate your whole business, Des. And you're like, well, as long as people still work with other people, I think we need to put a little emphasis on the relationship piece.
Automate away, as long as it's involving my people.
Right. Well, cool. Well, Des, I tell you what, man, how can people reach you? I know you get more prevalent out on, you said you're on Insta, you got LinkedIn going, we got Bear Down, the website. How can we talked? I want to bring this up. You mentioned you're going to be in Chicago. You're in Chicago a bit.
Yeah.
It's summertime in Chicago. If you'll recall, I know that was off season.
I'm coming up there for a golf tournament on the 24th. I'm trying to schedule some meetings up there. So as we talked about, maybe scheduling that happy hour on the 25th somewhere downtown. Yeah. So let's cut this clip out right here and stay on the 25th. We're going to schedule some type of happy hour. And look, industry people, but just good people. Especially if we've got any shippers out there that want to meet some industry people so we can ship more freight, man. I
just open it up to I say, look, if you work in the logistics freight industry, I don't care if you're a shipper, I don't care if you're a broker, a carrier, a tech player. If you work in supply chain at any component, come on out, man. And you'd be surprised how many people are like looking for that community. Yeah. And how many times those engagements at a little happy hour lead to your next job opportunity, your next hire, the next customer. You just don't know, right? And I think that's what in an age we're all online all the time, I'm a believer you'll never replicate that in-person dynamic. I still have never shaken your hand, right? And there's going to be something about it. I'm going to know who you are, but I feel like at that point,
So let's cut these last 3 minutes out.
Yes.
Post it onto your LinkedIn. I post it onto my LinkedIn. And then we'll confirm it as we get closer to that date, which is only about 9 days away or something like that. I don't know. And let's make it happen, man.
Yeah. And I tell you what, if it doesn't work, 9 days is too short, Des, we got a whole summer up here in Chicago, man.
Yeah.
So I think
the whole summer, like Chicago summers are long. You know, it's gonna be cold again, just like that. So if we're gonna do it, we gotta do it
now,
now.
Mr. Florida.
Oh yeah,
Well, cool. Well,
all
Des,
the time.
oh yeah. Well, Des, like I said, I will meet up with you. I'll make it a mission. I'd love to do a happy hour. We can do it 9 days, or we got to say, hey, it's going to be more like 2 or 3 weeks to get it coordinated. But we will make it happen. Promise.
Yes,
and I'm looking forward to that day, man. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate your authenticity today, keeping it real with me 100%. I like where the conversation went, man. I appreciate again the time, and yeah, like I said, I'll be glad to support you in any way I can, man, moving forward.
I appreciate it, Chris, and same here, man. I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate the conversation, and just count me as one of your teammates.
Yes, sir. Love it.